right, so welcome to the May 3rd Middle Creek Restoration meeting. Roll call. I will start with, we have Marina Delgiani, Bruno Sabatier here, Harry Lyons.
Sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to say something. I thought you were just making
Harry, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
good morning. It's Harry, good morning.
Scott De Leon is here. I see him on, and Peter should be joining us shortly. All right, so is there any items that we want to consider that are not appearing on the posted agenda? Not hearing any. Go ahead and move on to item number 3, board action. Approve minutes from April 5th, 2021 Middle Creek Project Committee meeting. And so I know some of us just got the minutes. So I don't know if there's any changes or additions that need to be corrected or anything of that nature.
No, I looked through it. Everything looks good. I am willing to make a motion to approve meeting minutes of April, was that 5th? Yeah, April 5th, 2021.
And I will second that motion.
A motion by Bruno, second by Harry Lyons. And so we will, you want to take the roll call for us, Marina, if possible?
Yes. Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Harry Lyons,
Aye.
Marina Delajanis, aye.
Okay.
Is that everyone?
Yes, that's everyone for now. All right. And I'm just going to also disclose too that at 11:30, 35-ish, I have to jump off. So Bruno, if you can continue on if we're still going.
Sounds good to me.
Unless we're finished by then, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Let's do what we can.
Okay. So item number 4, project area parcel acquisition. And we have 4.1 update on the parcel area acquisition to date.
Yes, so I would like to bring this item up. I'm glad that we have Celia Hoberg on the call as well. We have received, I think it was a few letters from Robinson Rancheria regarding the parcels to be acquired. And Celia, I don't know if you can hear me, but do you mind hopping in with the responses that we got? And I know I reached out to Supervisor Crandall as well regarding this item.
Yes, there are actually a total of 5 parcels now that Robinson Rancheria owns in this project area. 2 of them were just purchased from Martha Brookman. So originally we sent the willing seller notice out to Martha for that and then realized that there had been an escrow. But in any case, the Robinson Rancheria parcels that we did send for 3 of them came back marked not interested by the chairman of the board. So that raises the question, what do we need to do to get them back on board so that we can make, get these appraised and make offers? That's pretty much where we are with that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then so okay, so I know that Marina had called, sent an email, and I called also the chair, and so I wanted to see if we could set up something to meet with them because I don't think they understand. I've explained before on my end what needs to take place, but I think Marina and I had decided that we need to look at an option to try to discuss with them what it entails, because I think there's some confusion about the sale, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I have a question. Is there any kind of waiver form where they can just say, yeah, flood me, I'm good, I want to keep my property? Is there some easy way where they can just keep their property and it gets inundated and they just pretty much say, keep going with your project, but we want to keep this land?
That's a really good question, Bruno, and I don't know how that works with a project like this that's through the state and Army Corps, what we do when someone says they don't want to participate and they need to understand that at some point those properties will be underwater.
Yeah, like almost like a right of entry form to be able to do any kind of work we need to do to make sure that we revitalize the old flow of the water, and a waiver that says we just want to keep this because it's our historical place that we've owned for a while, and we want to make sure it still stays with us, but we approve of this project moving forward. I don't know, just looking for an easy way out.
Probably something we'll have to discuss with legal. Scott may want to chime in on that as far as what our liabilities would be if we're fully disclosing to them whether they participate or not, that at some point their property, you know, falling within that 100-year floodplain could or probably will be flooded, I think, as long as we disclose it, but I'm not sure from the legal aspect how that should be worded.
Well, I think it merits certainly some discussion, but unfortunately, I think that discussion is going to need to be with the Corps. We've been operating under the, under the presumption all along that we had to buy these properties in fee and then record a conservation easement. And I may not be using the correct term, but we were supposed to record some type of easement over the property so that it remained undeveloped and natural in perpetuity. So I like the question. I like the alternative or the option because certainly it could address some issues where, for example, the partial parcel acquisition could be done in such a fashion where it's just a flowage easement or something of that nature. But it's my understanding, again, we've been working on this for so long with the Army Corps that it was something that we needed to buy in fee. But I think it merits the question for sure.
Yeah, this is Harry. I think you guys are right on the money on this, and I can talk to the supervisor, Josh Garcia, and find out about this. But Scott has a good memory. It's buy in fee and then record an easement. The option we'd want would be keep the original owners, but they sign an easement, because the owner not only wants, we want from the owner the promise of not having a liability suit when the flooding happens, but also the promise of never developing the property. So I think that's how the Corps eventually evolved a system where they just bought the stuff. So, but I'll inquire of Mr. Garcia whether we have an option.
And I think this is a good point to bring up, because although we're working on the willing sellers right now, that is our focus, and our DWR grant is for the willing sellers. As we're finding out, we are going to have folks who are not willing sellers. So we need to start thinking about, okay, what do we need to do for those folks who are not willing sellers? What route do we need to take? And looking past the DWR grant in hopes that we can obtain more funding to acquire these parcels and work with folks who are not willing. So I think some sort of waiver form is very warranted. So those discussions are definitely essential.
Well, and you would think that either the Army Corps or the State Department of Water Resources has some kind of workaround for this, because their grant is so specific for willing sellers. There's got to be some plan B. I'm sure this isn't the only time this has happened in a project like this.
Right.
We just have to find out who to get the answers from.
No, it would have to definitely be a strong contract to indemnify all parties, and as Dr. Lyons suggested, also a cease and desist on any future development on that piece of property. I mean, it's either that or eminent domain. I don't know what else it would be if they say no, they don't want to sell, or else the project's dead in the water. So there has to be a way forward.
Right, because I don't think they want us to use eminent domain for this project. So you're right. There's got to be something to work around.
Yeah, and it's not so much that they don't want us to use that. It's specifically precluded that for the use of the grant funds. The grant funds require that the seller be willing, and that those funds cannot be used for eminent domain. Eminent domain has always been on the table, but it would need to be funded by local funds, county funds, and not the grant.
Right.
I think Corolla had just stated something. She stated her number, but I think maybe she can help with this because she works for Robinson. So Corolla, do you think you can unmute and maybe give some insight?
Yes. Thank you, EJ. Yeah, insight, I'm not sure how much of that I can give. I apologize. And I will discuss with council on the properties, the ones that they turned down and what that looks like. I think it's, there's some other questions. I'm really curious with the conversation about the tribe keeping the properties and what that looks like. And what that does look like when there's properties that are underwater and the tribe owns that. What does that mean to lake bed management and the tribe and them as a government having say in the management of the lake? And so, yeah, I'd like to have those conversations and really dig into that. Insight, I don't have any as of yet, but definitely do need to start working on this with council, and I will approach that with them and see what their thoughts and ideas are going forward as to why. I'm sure they have a reason as to why they're stating the position they're stating. So yeah, I will work with them and go from there. But all good conversation and interesting topics. I think we need to determine what does that mean when there's water under, when there's land that's now been flooded and it's owned by someone else. What does that mean? And is it trust property or fee property for Robinson, and what does that mean? I also have the question already, actually, is when that when it does get flooded and it's now connected to the lake and Robinson has trust property there, what rights does that give the tribe on the shoreline of the lake, as Elam and Big Valley have? So because they have trust property on the lake. But yes, all good questions and definitely deserve good answers. And I think Army Corps would be the place to go. And I think it needs to start higher up probably, so that you get good answers and solid answers, so we're not swimming around in bad information.
Yeah, Army Corps
ahead,
should
sorry.
know the answer to that, because if there is trust land currently under lake water, that's definitely a governing issue, I would think.
Well, there's not so much trust land underwater as there is. Elam and Big Valley have both had shoreline trust rights for as long as I know. So yeah, and that would hold the same for Robinson, I would assume, once the flooding happens and trust property sits on the shoreline, which, yeah, so. But there's more conversation to be had with that and understanding of what that means.
Corolla.
So when
And so-
Supervisor Crandall, sorry. When
No,
we
I was just going to tell you to go ahead. You go ahead. There you go. Mhm.
goodness for my Zoom outbursts. So when we initially spoke about this, I know that we mentioned that it would be good to have that initial conversation. I would really like the county, specifically the Watershed Protection District, to develop that conversation. As you know, this is our project, so to sit down with the tribes, have these conversations. I think it would be super beneficial to have at least Supervisor Crandall there. So either myself and or De Leon and or Celia, and then Supervisor Crandall for these initial conversations. And then if deemed appropriate, we can bring the committee in. But I think for the initial sit down conversation, it needs to be with the tribes and then us with the Watershed Protection District. And, here are some of the questions, comments, ideas, anything that goes about it, and then we can take this and run. But I think, again, we can have tandem conversations with Army Corps of Engineer, all the topics that we just discussed in this, the past few minutes as well. So.
And so you mean all the tribes, or are you just talking about just Robinson and?
Yeah, I think initially Robinson, since we got a response from them, in time, I think it'd be appropriate to bring in all the tribes if that's what we deem would be the best discussion moving forward. But I think we need to make it a priority to touch base with Robinson, since we did get the response to them. We are in the process of, parcel acquisition. And I would like this sit down, virtual sit down, phone call, however you look at it, to happen in the next month. So
Okay.
if that works for everyone.
Great.
Is there any more to discuss on 4.1.1 Robinson Rancheria parcel from the board?
I just have a suggestion for Mariana or Marina. If she wants to meet up with the council, I recommend doing a presentation to the whole council, so you're informing them all. it's best to go that way then, because it's going to have to go in front of the whole council anyway. So your best bet is to reach out and see if they would provide you an opportunity to discuss it with all of them. And they normally do their council meetings on Wednesday right now.
Thank you for that, Carola.
You're welcome.
Is this something that we need, do I need to bring this before the committee to approve or make motion to move forward with, or?
I think you have consensus. If everybody shakes their head.
Yeah, I think we,
Yep,
is everybody okay with that?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I can help you facilitate a meeting of that nature, Marina, because I got in touch with the chair and he said that he'd be willing to meet with us and whatnot. So if we could set up to be in one of their meetings, that would probably be ideal. And I can help you with that.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. So now 4.1.2 parcel tracking spreadsheet. Oh wait, first, is there anything from public input? Anyone from the public that would like to speak on 4.11? Okay, not hearing anything. 4.12, go ahead, Marina. Sorry about that.
Nope, you're fine, thank you. Perfect, so Cherish is gonna be sharing her screen. So here we go, and I'm gonna be leaning on Celia as well for this conversation. So please provide input as you deem appropriate, Celia. So here's the willing sellers list that Cherish and Celia and Daniela have been working on. So as you can see here, and we can send this to the committee as well. We can share you guys a version of this. So we have the main sheet here that outlines who received the willing sellers list. Then we also have the first notice, which was sent out, the responses back to that when it was sent out, how they responded and what they responded. And then again, that was sent on January 28th of 21. And then we have the second notice, which was sent out, sorry, Cherish, I'm all over the place, on 4/7/21, the responses that were received letters back for.
Can I say one thing also?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I try to keep this updated as much as possible. This is our running list. So some of these, as we found out that they are different owners, they are also getting separate notice, and these separate notices were actually sent certified. So I can see the return receipt. I have received all of them except for one, but we still are waiting on about 4 letters. We've had a couple that are actually no longer these owners. So anybody who got notices and they are no longer the owners, we're sending out another notice and it will be sent certified. I noticed sent certified, we've received a lot more back. So it's about, I think, 4 properties that we're waiting on letters. But yeah, this is our running list. It actually looks a lot better than when we first started.
I'd like to add too that Cherish worked really hard doing a lot of research, and we found 7 properties in old names that we actually own by virtue of a resolution. So we just acquired 7 properties because Cherish did research.
Awesome.
Nice, good work.
Yeah. So Cherish worked really hard on that. So we're down 7 now that we can cross those off the list we own.
Yeah, and those are the ones, if you look here, they're all the ones in green. So all these ones in green are the ones that we actually have owned now. So yeah.
Add that to the map.
Yes.
This is Peter. May I? Let's see. I don't know if I'm
Go ahead, Peter.
okay.
We can hear you.
As you know, I've had conversations with Eric Seeley, and my question about, and I sent notice to Scott and Marina and EJ, but Eric has not sent in what he tells me, and he sent the documents to show it, that he received the letter. He sent a reply on January 1st or 30, what was it, 31st? Yes, and has heard nothing by way of reply, not a word. So my question is that true for other people too, who are responded as willing sellers, but have not gotten any responses? He's not heard a peep from anybody.
Well, Peter, the reason why they haven't gotten responses yet is once we get the letter saying, yes, they are a willing seller, we let the consultant know so that they can go ahead and get the appraisals ordered so that they can present the offers. So
Okay,
there is a
can I
definite
respond to that?
process.
Can I respond to that? There's
Absolutely.
not a word to explain that sent back to Eric. Not a word, not a word in 3 months. So what is it? I mean, are you all sending responses saying, okay, here's the process that we go through. Now we have an appraisal. At least ways in his case, he said, and Eric, by the way, it's just coincidentally, he had Celia's job. Here for
Yes,
a long-
and excuse me, Peter, but Eric also has every phone number of every person in this department. And I, I'm sorry that Eric wasn't contacted. I think we could certainly be more diligent. But I'm going to take a little issue here. We have an enormous amount of work going on here, as you know, and it's unfortunate that Eric wasn't contacted, but he most certainly could, of any of these folks, could have easily contacted me, Celia, Marina.
What would you have told him? Scott, I agree entirely. I totally understand that. I raise it not because it's Eric at all. I raise it as a case study. The question is, for those willing sellers, has somebody contacted them after they sent back and said they're a willing seller? Have they received, and whose job is it? Sounds to me like it should be the consultant, but I don't know. What's the process? When you get somebody, isn't a week later they get some kind of letter that says, okay, here we're going to go from here?
We're actually doing these in groups, and with the plats and legals, then we can send out the notice of decision to appraise. So there's definitely a process.
But I think Peter's point is a good one. And Celia, what I'm going to ask us to do is, if there are any other property owners that we've received notices back that they are willing sellers, let's not wait for the plats and legals. Let's not wait for the group. I think Peter's point is a very good one. And let's make contact with these people, apologize that we haven't got back to them, but that they can expect to hear from us in the very near future, just so we can acknowledge that they sent their forms back, and that we haven't forgotten that they're on the list, and let's make that happen.
And could I add to that too? I suggest that what would be included is a description of the process. So they not because what is so awfully hard for property owners is say, okay, are you a willing seller? Hear nothing, and then get it back and letter, okay, we're going to contact you soon. Well, how about an explanation of what the steps are so that they understand and say, okay, now I understand it's going to be 2 or 3 months until somebody, they do the appraisal and whatever. That's what I'm suggesting that we do. And I think there's over the years, I think I have a sense that there's a track record of people not hearing anything for months. Bob's took years, and there are a lot of reasons for that. The question is keeping the property owner informed. I guess that's what I'm asking for.
And I would like to state that both Celia and I have had conversations with parcel owners. I've had a few, with folks before they even send letters back, they reach out to us and they want more description. So I do agree, Peter, with what you're saying. We need to be more transparent with the parcel owners who we intend to purchase for the project at hand, to let them know this is what we're planning on doing. But as we saw, we had, was it the Wilcox parcel? Those property owners were attending our meetings. I think we also need to do a better job of notifying the parcel owners, hey, we have these meetings once a month. Please feel free to come and join and participate. That was beneficial, but then they still ended up selling the parcel anyhow. And although they sold it to the Duck Club, that, they were well aware of the project at hand, that still added more to our plate. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Peter. We'll be more diligent on our end, being more transparent and ensuring that we have these follow-up conversations. And I have contacted Eric. I'm hoping to hear back from him. I left him a voicemail again this morning. So hopefully we can have this.
Sure. And Eric wants to, you know, he works with us. He's real. But again, it was a case study, not so much for Eric specifically. When does, and by the way, the Wilcox property was lost because of Paragon. It's unmistakable that that's the reason that they lost that property. And that's part of what makes it so incredibly frustrating. And anyway, very frustrating. And once again, that guy's in a spot that I think he shouldn't be. That really worries me. When does Monument or Paragon, or Monument principally, when do they get involved? Where in the process?
Monument is waiting for plats and legals. That's all they're waiting for. They've got their appraiser standing by to do the appraisals on the take. They are not going to do anything until we get them what they need.
Well, let me back up.
And we're working on that.
Okay, I know. My objective is get stuff off your plates, guys. I think we need to help you be in that. And so things reducing the workload, I'm not trying to lay it on you. I'm trying to find out where and why isn't Monument be right there with that first letter response saying we're the agent for the county or for the district and we're going to be working with you. Pick that up them early on, because they're the ones presumably that are going to be working with the property owner at some point. Start sooner and get them to be on the hook for this.
Monument is I mean, I've got to defend Monument because they're
Okay.
waiting for us to get them that information. They're
I
not
know.
getting that.
I know, but they should be talking to the property owner. Once again, I'm trying to work on this relationship.
I understand that, but if they can't talk to the property owner, if they don't know the seller letters have come in.
Well, send it to them. It seems to me like the minute the letter goes in, the willing seller letter goes in, you send it to Monument and say, by the way, all right, contact these folks. Let them, Monument, go to work and explain the process.
If I may interject, it sounds like that comment was heard. And if I'm correct, I heard Scott saying that we need to go ahead and make that bridge happen so that they're aware that we've received that and that we'll go ahead and update that. And so it sounds to me like that was heard. It was a good point to bring up because they're still kind of in the dark because we were taking those first steps, not Paragon, in order to request, are you willing, are you not willing? And that information just was not shared with Monument until we got the rest of the stuff. And it seems to me like we're going to go ahead and change that process so that they are more aware of what is going on so they can get started. But without the legals and plats, obviously they can't go much further than just saying, we've heard you're a willing seller. This is who we are. We're going to be doing such and such in the near future. And so I think just wanted to interject because I think we are going to move in that direction.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bruno. Okay.
And
so,
can I get an idea? Because I'm sure all legals and plats are not moving simultaneously for all because it's kind of difficult to work on all the 70 properties at once. Do we have an idea when the first batch will be ready?
I would hope by the end of this month.
Okay. And how many approximately are in that batch?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, Supervisor, but I can get that information for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, it's in Concert's hands and I just don't have that number, but I'll do my best to get you an answer.
Okay.
And I'll share that with the group.
Thank you.
thank you.
May I ask one more question? On another subject, very quickly, has a policy decision been made with regard to partial acquisitions versus total acquisitions? In other words, we recall at the last meeting, we talked about the tremendous time lapse that's involved with having to do surveys, of doing partial acquisitions instead of buying full acquisition. No, it's buy all the property and then dispose of the excess. How has that been left? Is that?
Well, I can tell you that we're pursuing the partial acquisition. And that's what we're working on.
Will that fit in the time frame that's left for this grant?
Yes.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
My biggest concern is make sure we spend all that $15 million. We get it and spend it. So anyway.
All right. Thank you for that question. Is there anything else on 4.1.2 that we need to discuss?
Thank you for the tracking sheet. And
Yes.
hopefully we'll get that every single month that we can kind of take a look at what the progress has been. But I do appreciate the tracking sheet.
One
Oh, sorry.
other question.
I just wanted to echo,
Marina,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead, Marina.
I just wanted to echo what Celia said and give Cherish again a big kudos for all the work that she's done. She
Oh,
really
yes.
stepped up to the plate, and then same with Daniela as well. Both of they created that entire document, and they have been good at keeping everyone up to date on that. So just wanted to give them an extra little thank you.
Did I see on that list, I scanned it very quickly, the Christensen property, the Bloody Island property, is that on the list? And what is the response been? That's Whitfield.
No, no, that's not on our list because that's being handled separately. These are ones that we haven't been in contact with. So these are ones that we're trying to get in contact with.
And again, going off of that, so Christensen parcel, I will be making those conversations with Christensen. I intend to follow up with them by the end of this week and hopefully have either schedule a sit down or have, those initial phone conversations with them.
So at this point, we don't have a response. Is that a fair statement?
Not from when Supervisor Crandall had a conversation with them.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion on 4.1.2?
Corolla has her hand up.
Go ahead, Corolla.
Thank you. I just had a question about when is the survey going to get done? Is that not a key element to selling of these properties and understanding where the cutoff line is for flooding and not flooding?
So that, I can answer that, Corolla. So that goes off with the legals and plats that we are in the process of conducting now. And as Director Scott DeLeon mentioned, we are working on that to make some major progress on that by the end of this month.
Okay, who does the surveying? Then the county, not Army Corps?
So we're going off of a subcontractor, so Concert Land Surveying. Right now, the project boundary is identified by the 100-year flood, but again, to ensure that that is accurate, to identify how much of each parcel is to be acquired, we need to make sure that that line is set in stone. So that's what we're working with Concert Land Surveying on.
And so you're not doing any surveying on any parcels until there's an agreement that owner wants to sell? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, either way, we still have to get the identified project boundary. So we know the project boundaries, but we still need to confirm that. So again, we can anticipate that we are going to have unwilling sellers. Again, our grant that we currently have with DWR is only for willing sellers. So we still need to identify the project boundary so then we can be confident when we say this is how much of the parcel we need to acquire. And then also if we do that, some sort of waiver form or work with, eminent domain, we can be sure that whatever we are purchasing does fall within that project boundary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that covers 4.1.2. And I think what we'll do is we'll move on to item 5, California Department of Water Resources. And go ahead, Marina.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So I am in conversations with our DWR new point of contact. I actually have a meeting with them this week. Again, we are still getting them up to speed with the project at hand. Of course, as you mentioned, the last few meetings, we have a new project manager who was not aware of the project whatsoever. So it's taken some time and it's been difficult because of course we are coordinating with the grant. One of our biggest focuses now, they're very respondent. She, of course, Nancy, she's been great, but she has to ask some questions along the way. So it does take some time to receive a response depending on what we are asking. Our biggest focus now is with our grant, we do have the maintenance funds that we have set aside in this grant. We are focusing heavily on the maintenance. Our Torrance Vigil property, we have the keys that is completely closed as of Monday. So now we need to move forward with the maintenance on how we actually get those funds, do reimbursement, etc. We want to make sure we do all that properly so we can get reimbursed because we don't have money if we don't do it properly, to mess up. So there's very little room for error. So again, I have conversations with our DWR grant manager this week to confirm that we are moving through that process of requesting those funds, etc., that is following all the grant guidelines. So those are my updates in terms of DWR.
Thank you, Marina, for that. Very good work. And I look forward to that meeting this week. Is there any questions for Marina that anyone has about the Department of Water Resources? Hearing nothing from the board.
I'm
Go ahead.
looking forward to the results of those conversations.
Yes, me too. It's gonna be fun.
Those are important
Yeah.
results. So hopefully they go the direction that we want them to go.
Exactly.
There anything from the public that has any questions or anything like that? All right. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to item 6, Army
Mary
Corps
Jo,
of
sorry,
Engineers.
Supervisor Crandall. Mary Jo's waving at us.
Yeah,
Oh.
did I
With
miss,
dance.
Go ahead, Mary Jo. Sorry
did I
about
miss
that.
the status of the Buddhists, the Hanston, the Montanos, the Oldham, and the Clear Lake Duck Club?
Yes, so as of 4/5, both the offers were in progress for the Sino-American Buddhist Association and the Montanos. That is as a report from Paragon. So they're in the process of preparing those offers. Again, continuing on with those conversations on that. And then which other ones? I'm sorry. Which other ones?
Marina, Laura does know that the Clear Lake Duck Club appraisal was approved. I told her that so she could move forward with the offer on that as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, basically all the Paragon ones that aren't already bought.
Yes.
Correct.
I missed any of this.
Which is great.
So-
We want to finish on what Paragon's been working so we can really focus on what Monument's working on.
Right, and I just didn't hear the status of any of that, is why I'm asking.
I understand all of those have offers in progress.
Awesome.
Even Hanston? He was.
Hanston, I am not, I don't know.
So Hanston, again, as we recall at the last meeting, we have not heard any updates from Hanston. Last to our knowledge, he is not a willing seller, so I'd rather not focus our time and energy on him. He was going to get his own appraisal. If he's not a willing seller, our funds can't cover that anyhow, so I'd rather not invest our time and energy in a parcel that is not a willing seller when we have other parcels that are willing.
And also, Marina, that on that property, I think he realizes if he goes ahead and gets his own appraisal, he's going to find out it's going to appraise for much less than what we offered.
Yes.
So I think he just figures if he doesn't communicate with us that we're going to go away, but we're not.
And do we
that's-
automatically go with the least of the appraisals?
Wait, Celia, I'm gonna have you answer that one.
Well, I think what happened is the first appraisal that came out, and I talked to Paragon about it, and they were saying that Mr. Hanston wanted, I don't know, 10% more, 15% more, some funny number. So I went ahead and I ran a whole bunch of comps recently of properties very similar to his, and they didn't come up anywhere near his appraisal. And I believe the consultant made that comment that if we go back and reappraise now, you're going to get a lesser offer. I don't know. I didn't see the parcel diary for Hanston, but I just have a feeling that he's just gone dark because I think he knows it's just not worth much, except for growing weed.
And this is the
When it's
perfect,
funded.
this is the perfect reason as to why a waiver form could be beneficial.
Right,
because
right.
We have demonstrated that we've tried to have conversations. We've tried to work with this parcel owner and they're just not budging. And, we've reached our capacity on what more we can do in the realms of the current funds that we have for this project. So. Did that answer your question, Mary Jo?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
So we were moving to item 6, Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, this is Harry. Concurrent with our effort to purchase the properties is our effort to get to the record of decision, which would signal the end of the feasibility study for the Army Corps and allow us to start pre-construction engineering and detailed design. And so the work that needs to be done to get to the record of decision is funded by the work plan with the Army Corps. And so I had a long discussion and I gave you a report on that, and I'll get this to Corolla too. But it's essentially my effort to understand how the work plan is funded. And it's funded separately from major appropriations for design and construction of a project like this. The Sacramento District of the Army Corps of Engineers has repeatedly requested work plan funds for Middle Creek in fiscal 2019, fiscal 2020, and fiscal 2021. So for 3 years, including the upcoming year, they have made requests. For my guess is they've requested about $1 million to finish up the work. And the work involves fulfilling the National Environmental Policy Act requirements, consultation with tribal governments, satisfying the state historical preservation officer, and updating the environmental impact statement. So all of this work, about $1 million worth of work, has to be done before we can enter pre-construction design, before we can come up with our $800,000 for our section of the design. So even if we have money, the Corps is not asking for money until they get some money to get this finishing up work done. What we have accomplished in the last couple of weeks is to find out that the funding through the work plan is mostly an internal funding. The decisions are made at the division headquarters in San Francisco, the Army Corps, and then the final decisions are made in headquarters of Army Corps in Washington, D.C. So the Sacramento District sends projects forward that they feel are competitive, and ours has been one in the past 3 years. And then the South Pacific Division of the Corps in San Francisco weeds those down. And then finally, the final winners are selected by the headquarters of the Corps in Washington. And in all those steps, our congressmen don't have any direction. They can make suggestions. And so no projects are denied, they're just not approved. And so we haven't been approved in the past 2 years, and now we're in line for the 3rd year for the try. The congressional input is a request, not a directive. So the Congress has a little less to say about this than they do about the appropriations for the big chunks of these projects. So representatives do this by sending a letter to the Chief of Engineers at Army Corps headquarters and to the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. So what Peter and I have done in the last weeks has been to request from Mike Thompson and from John Garamendi such a letter to both of those offices. We should have done it earlier, but we did manage it in mid-spring. Next year, if we don't get selected this year and we go for it next year, we'll get those letters in earlier. So what we're waiting for is funding from the Army Corps for their work plan. At that point, they will request funds from us, 35% of the expense of this finishing up work for the feasibility stage. They will request matching funds from us. They have not requested funds. Each letter from them says, we don't want any funds at the moment. And the reason they don't want any funds from us is because they haven't gotten their share yet. And that's how they work. So we keep on this. And so we've sent out the letters. We hope they are in time to influence the decisions that are made at the big office, the headquarters in Washington. I will this week write Mr. Garcia about the idea of the bind where someone does not want to sell their property, the concept of an easement, the concept of a waiver. I'll find out what the Army Corps wants in terms of that. I suspect the answer will be very quick and short. I think they like the cleanliness of the buy-in fee and then an easement held by a recognized easement holder, whether it's Department of Fish and Wildlife or the Land Trust or whatever. So that's what's going on with the Army Corps, and I'll take your questions if you have any.
I did just have, if that letter is going out, if it's possible to just make some, oh, it's on this computer, some quick changes It's two simple ones. If, where it says May 19th and March 18th, if we can add the year. And I'm not sure if that letter's already been sent or not.
Well, I don't know what letter you're referring to, Bruno.
The Army Corps report, May 2021. It was in the additional materials email that we received along with the minutes.
What I sent was an Army Corps report from me, an informal report from me last week. It should say Army Corps report, Harry Lyons, 04/28/21. It was not a letter.
Okay, so it was just a report to us. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Then never mind.
All right, thanks.
There are no questions from the, well, Peter, go ahead, Peter.
You're muted, Peter.
Muted.
Trying to unmute. I just want to tell you that Harry has done an extraordinary amount of work untangling what is been a awful ball of confusion, and I just want to commend him and let you know that his relationship with the Army Corps and the project manager has just paid huge dividends for us to finally figure out where the pressure points are and who's supposed to do what. So I want to let you know that.
Thank you for that, Peter, and thank you, Harry.
Well, I
work.
don't think my extraordinary work is pretty shrimpy compared to what Cherish has done. So
Well, still important.
All right, any other questions? Any questions for Harry or anything of that nature any longer for Army Corps?
I do have a question. What's our next deadline? I just want to be more proactive about when we make a request. I think that request shouldn't just come from us. I think that should come from the Board of Supervisors, maybe originating from here. But when is our next deadline where a letter of support would have an impact in making a request to both Garamendi and Thompson to approve, and also a letter directly to the Army Corps as high up as we can get that letter to say we need this project approved?
the next step for us is a formal letter that we've sent in previous years. It's called a letter of intent. And I like your idea. We beef it up. We have it come from the Board of Supervisors. We have it supported by Garamendi and Thompson. So we kind of make it a bigger presentation, and that's in June.
Okay. So let's make sure we get that on the board prior to June, just so that we can give our representatives time to also do their part.
Okay.
So let's, if it's possible, I would say let's aim for the 18th of May on the Board of Supervisors agenda. The 25th still works, but I just want to make sure they have adequate time to go ahead and turn around and do their part.
So what you want is, you want our letter of support so that they can sign it, or actually sign it maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll sign it from the board, and then let's see if we can get them to sign with us as well.
Okay. And that letter goes to Colonel Handora, if he still has the job, and so I'll rewrite that one. I meant to mention that they beefed up their appeal in asking for work funds. The Sacramento district did a good job of mentioning the fires and sort of mentioning, fleshing out socioeconomic conditions in Lake County. So they did a little better job each year, so they're getting sharp.
Good.
I'd like to suggest that also on May 18th that we give you draft letters to send to our members of Congress too, from the the Board of Supervisors directly. I think that would be helpful, very much so. And we'll prep that ahead of time with staff. That's what we're working on, is at the staff level primarily.
And Harry, let me know if there's anything that you need on my end in terms of getting that to the board or any support or assistance that you may need.
Thanks. I'll write it up and I'll get it to you.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah, I just had if we're gonna do this and bring it to the Board of Supervisors, we've been talking for a while about giving an update to the Board of Supervisors. Do we want to have that be like part A and part B? Part A is a presentation of what's been happening thus far, and part B is the request to approve a letter submitted to all Congress and all other representatives. And is the 18th enough time? Number one, do we want to do that? And if so, is the 18th, does that offer enough time to prepare for that type of presentation? Or do we want to move that to the 25th? I don't want to rush staff, but I also think that that would be a good opportunity to do that. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yes, and going off that, I would just like to echo that. I was going to bring that up at the end of the board. I know the committee, I know we've pitched that, and I would like to propose that we either go before the 18th or the 25th. I'm more than happy to help with that presentation and of course speak on behalf of Water Resources, but I would welcome one of the committee members also. I get tired of hearing my own voice. So I'm looking at either Harry or Peter. I believe the last discussion, it was going to be Peter. If I remember correctly, does that give you ample time, either the 18th or the 25th, to go before the Board of Supervisors? That way we can bring the letter from to the Army Corps to that discussion as well. So I like the idea of the part A and part B.
Oh, still muted.
Still muted.
There we go. Yeah, that would be wonderful. I'd love to work with Scott and Marina on that. I assume we'd both be participating in that presentation. It's exceptional, the work that's been done to date, and we need the board to know that. It really has been outstanding. But for this committee, we wouldn't be, and the leadership, we would be in real trouble. So,
thank you. Would it be too much of a delay if I recommend that we do that on the 25th? I'm trying to be realistic.
No, it'd be fine.
I
Awesome.
think it needs to be realistic and well prepared rather than rushed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So then I will follow up with you, Peter, and then you as well, Harry, regarding that next steps.
thank you.
All right. All right, so I don't hear any, is there any other questions? Anything from the public? All right, hearing nothing, we'll move on to item 7, PG&E. Bruno, I'm going to go ahead and hand the gavel over to you. I have to exit, but
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
Supervisor
Right.
Peter.
So we're on PG&E, discuss updates and next steps in communication with PG&E. I have 0 updates on that. Does anyone have any further updates with PG&E?
I do not have any updates on behalf of Water Resources.
Okay, let's just open it up real quick. If there's any public comment on our discussions with PG&E.
Yes, hi, this is Corolla Kennedy. I just have a quick question on PG&E.
Yes.
What further needs to be done with them, and what time in the process should this be getting done? It's moving some utilities, correct?
Yes, and so they're very well aware of the project. They're very well aware of what needs to be done. It's about us providing the funds to get them going on a design. And we're trying to figure out the balance between asking them to start too early or asking them to start too late, because we need to make sure that we're spending money on something that is going to happen rather than putting money right now in a place that we don't have. We have had discussions about putting up to $1 million allocated, which would provide the design for Army Corps as well as the design for PG&E. And that will come a little bit later in our agenda, I believe.
Okay. I just hate to see us wait to the line where it's too late and then we're back at square one again. But okay.
Absolutely. And seeing no further comments, let's go ahead and move on. Legislative 8.1, discuss updates and next steps in communications with legislative or with our legislature. I believe that we've somewhat discussed that already with the letter of intent that we're planning to approve on May 25th. Is there any further comments from anyone else?
No, again, we usually send them our progress reports for our grant as well. I'm waiting for some final clarifications on behalf of DWR. So once I get those by this week, I will be sending that progress report to both you and Eddie, and then that way we can send those out to our legislative.
Perfect. And we're always happy to forward those on, and it's a good way to stay in communication with those folks to make sure that they're still aware that we're working on something and that we still need them. And also wanted to make sure and bring back up that Senator Mike McGuire is an asset for us if we need him for the extension we're looking for from Water Resources. So make sure to keep him in mind as you're going through those discussions. Let's open that up for the public. Any comments? Okay, and then let's move on. Project funding, item 9.1, discuss updates and next steps for additional project funding. Last time we had spoken about allocating up to $800,000. We did talk about the million, but I see in the meeting minutes, it says $800,000, possibly over the course of 2 years. Wondering if that's something that's being put together for the budget, or if that's something that we need to request to see if that could be put into the budget. All depends on how the cannabis taxes were planned on being used. So wondering if that's something that either Marina or Scott can speak to.
I am assuming, I do not believe we put it, that 800,000 in the budget under Water Resource. I believe we're looking at the cannabis tax potentially. So that was my understanding.
Yeah, it was through the cannabis tax. Some of it was allocated for Water Resources. Some of it was allocated for economic development. And so that's what we had discussed. Absolutely not coming. That would hurt your budget if that came directly out of Water Resources.
It would be non-existent.
We wouldn't want to do that to you. But wondering if that's something that's been requested already for the cannabis taxes for the upcoming budget, or if that's still something that we need to specifically ask for directly from this committee.
Supervisor Sabatier, I do not have those budget numbers right here in front of me at my desk. My recollection is they're in there, but I will have to double check that.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
if we made it easy, we would have named it budget 8420, but that's probably, I wasn't there when that was created, so it's not that simple. All right. But we are looking to make that request, and so we'll continue to work on that. And of course, that is something that I will be keeping watch when the budget comes before the Board of Supervisors. And I believe that's in early June. I don't have the dates off the top of my head.
And that's something that as I'm preparing this presentation with Peter as well, I will touch base on that. So I will get the committee a response to that. I'll triple check before we go before the board, so we can make sure that we present properly on that.
And that's a great way to advertise what you would like the board to allocate and approve when it comes to the budget as well. So I think that that's perfect timing. Okay, any comments from members? Okay, and let's open it up to the public. Any comments on our allocation of funds? Yes, please.
My notes from last month said something about Peter was going to make a presentation to somebody about including that in the budget. Did I misunderstand the discussion last month?
I think maybe that was exactly the same discussion we're talking about, doing a presentation to the board. Am I correct, Peter?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. I thought it was to Water Resources. That was my confusion then.
Yeah, and so what we'll be, we've been following full circle where we are going to make that presentation to the board, and now we have an actual date for when we plan on making that happen, which is great.
And And I just wanted to confirm that I will be putting that into Granicus. Water Resources will that date, right? Okay, great. We're on it.
Unless you want to direct someone else to do that, if we could take something off your plate, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, it's just a simple board memo regarding a presentation.
Should be simple.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to confirm.
Big bold letters, pay attention to this presentation. Thank you. All right, any public expression, any public comments for anything that is not on this agenda? Now is your time. Okay, appreciate everybody who made it for today's meeting. We didn't have any non-timed items. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 7th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. We will continue on Zoom. If we can, on that June 7th agenda, if there's the possibility for us to discuss on how we continue these meetings, if we want to continue on Zoom, if we want to reopen in person, if we want to do a hybrid. Everyone that I'm aware of for all the committees I'm on are having those discussions. June 15th, the tier system is going to disappear unless something drastic changes in the state level. And so after our June 7th meeting, we will be out of the tiered system. And so if we can have those discussions to figure out what's best for everyone to make sure that we all have the best participation. And other than that, I think I'll open it up for anybody with any other comments or suggestions before we close the meeting. And seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for today, and I look forward to our May 25th presentation. Please contact our chair, EJ, if there are any concerns or questions about that coming up on May 25th. Since he's not here, I figured I could do that. But I'm always here if you need anything.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.